The vault door did not resist when Elias turned the wheel. It yielded with a slow metallic exhale, a sound like something remembering movement after years of patience. The hinges carried no urgency, only acceptance. Inside, the air was dry, disciplined, untouched by recent presence. Dust moved only when displaced by breath. The far wall held a control panel glowing faintly beneath a narrow strip of recessed light. Scratches covered its surface like forgotten conversations. The code plate beneath the dial carried numbers no longer referenced in modern systems. He stepped inside and closed the door behind him. The room returned to stillness immediately, like a place that did not care whether it was used or ignored. The building stood behind an investment firm that had outlived its need for visibility. No signage marked its existence. No glass reflected passing movement. Only stone and a single fixed security camera that did not track motion, only recorded it. The architecture belonged to an era when secrecy was assumed rather than advertised. Elias arrived before the city entered its first acceleration. Traffic lights still cycled through empty intersections. Markets elsewhere prepared for volatility disguised as opportunity. He preferred this hour, when decisions had not yet begun to compete for attention. The corridor lights inside the structure activated gradually, warming from dim amber to full illumination one segment at a time. The building did not rush for occupants. It acknowledged them with restraint. The vault itself had not been designed for currency. It stored instructions, procedures, authorizations, legacy mechanisms embedded into financial infrastructure during slower decades when patience defined strategy. Alliances formed through handshake rather than automation had once depended on it. The control panel sat waist-high against the far wall, brushed steel worn smooth at its edges. A rotary dial surrounded by faded etchings. A narrow display window showing only blank darkness. No biometric scanner. No touchscreen. No digital interface eager for input. Only deliberate motion. Elias removed his gloves before touching the panel. Skin against metal carried consequences gloves could not measure. He had learned the code from a man who never explained its origin, only that it worked until it didn't. The man had retired without ceremony. Alive. Unreachable. As if leaving behind knowledge required distance rather than explanation. Elias rested his palm against the cold surface. The vault held no echo. Even sound behaved with discipline here. The code had not been used in years. Modern systems had replaced most legacy authority with faster protocols. Automated decisions. Transparent audit trails. Interfaces designed to eliminate ambiguity. Speed became the proof of competence. This panel favored none of those values. Weeks earlier, Elias had noticed something irregular, transactions that hesitated under extreme pressure. Algorithms paused when risk margins narrowed beyond acceptable thresholds. Decisions deferred momentarily before aligning with patterns that did not exist in current architecture. He traced those moments backward. Every path converged here. The rusted code. Unused systems did not disappear. They retreated into invisibility until stress exposed their foundations. He had tested the theory cautiously. A delayed authorization. A minor structural adjustment. Each time, modern processes bent slightly toward older instructions, like muscle memory resurfacing when conscious effort failed. Rust had not destroyed the mechanism. It had preserved it. Elias understood the temptation. Not domination. Not chaos. Certainty. The relief of knowing where leverage truly lived. He imagined activating the full sequence. Old priorities would reassert themselves beneath modern interfaces. Decisions would tilt subtly, favoring structures aligned with the code's logic. Outcomes would shift without explanation, power exercised invisibly. He also imagined the cost. Legacy systems carried inertia. Once engaged, reversal required exposure. Exposure attracted attention, and attention transformed leverage into liability. He remembered the man who taught him the sequence, how he never spoke about profit or victory, only alignment. Moments when effort disappeared because structures had already decided outcomes. Elias rotated the dial one notch. The metal resisted slightly. Friction built from years of neglect rather than malfunction. The movement felt heavier than the motion required. He stopped. His breathing slowed as he considered the boundary between awareness and activation. Knowledge alone changed positioning. Execution changed ecosystems. He watched the blank display window. It offered no anticipation, no invitation. He rotated the dial a second notch. A faint internal shift echoed through the panel, barely audible but precise. Not confirmation, recognition. His chest tightened, not from fear, but from clarity. Every additional movement reduced optionality. The system narrowed around him. Paths previously open began to close silently. He imagined analysts weeks later explaining sudden structural changes. Engineers diagnosing legacy interference. Executives celebrating temporary advantages without understanding their origin. The dial waited. And so did consequence. A dim symbol appeared within the narrow display window. Not approval. Not warning. Acknowledgement. Elias felt the change before logic could articulate it. The room did not shift. The system did not react visibly. But internally, decision space compressed. Options transformed into commitments simply by proximity to completion. Power here was not command. It was permission. The architecture allowed action but refused responsibility for it. He imagined completing the sequence, the silent reordering of leveraged structures beneath modern transparency. Institutions would adjust behavior without understanding why. Risk models would subtly favor specific pathways. Outcomes would appear inevitable. He also imagined the residue. Rust disturbed left traces. Legacy code invoked investigation once its influence surfaced. Leverage that remained invisible retained depth. Leverage exercised invited scrutiny. The dial waited without urgency. He removed his hand from the metal surface. The symbol remained, dim but persistent. The system remembered attempted alignment even without completion. He stepped back. Discipline returned not as resistance, but as distance. The ability to leave sequences unfinished when awareness had already delivered advantage. The vault remained silent. No system alerts. No digital acknowledgement. Only the quiet presence of something that still existed beneath modern architecture. He realized the deepest control did not require activation, only comprehension. Elias rotated the dial back to neutral. The faint symbol dissolved into blank darkness. The panel resumed its dormant posture. He replaced his gloves. The building reacted to nothing. No security protocol activated. Outside, the city accelerated into daily motion, unaware of structural possibilities that had nearly resurfaced beneath it. In the weeks that followed, Elias observed the system differently. He did not intervene. He did not test further sequences. Yet behavior shifted subtly. He avoided risks that depended on visible authority. He positioned himself where dormant leverage provided resilience without exposure. Decisions became slower, but outcomes grew more stable. Others noticed irregularities in system responses under stress. Analysts blamed latency. Engineers blamed legacy architecture. Executives initiated reviews. Elias contributed little. He had not activated the code, but awareness altered his strategy more than execution ever could. He passed the building less frequently. When he did, he never looked at the camera. Not from fear, from indifference. Some mechanisms were most powerful precisely because they remained unused. Years later, the firm decommissioned the vault during a modernization initiative. Compliance teams digitized every legacy protocol. The panel was archived. The code documented and neutralized through transparency. Systems became faster, cleaner, fully visible. Elias reviewed the transition from distance. Markets initially celebrated efficiency. Decisions accelerated. Automation removed friction. Transparency replaced ambiguity. Then volatility increased. Small instabilities emerged where older systems had once absorbed pressure quietly. Sudden shifts replaced gradual corrections. Outcomes became more reactive to noise. The rusted code had never required activation to influence behavior. Its existence alone had shaped restraint, forcing participants to consider deeper structures beneath immediate incentives. Once fully exposed and neutralized, leverage became obvious and therefore shallow. Elias did nothing. Dormant authority had completed its purpose without execution. It had trained him to recognize power without needing to prove it. When leverage becomes visible, it loses depth. And when systems remove friction entirely, they often remove patience with it. Moral, dormant power reshapes behavior more deeply than visible control. Reflective question: what advantages in your environment exist precisely because they remain unused?